Hello, how are you? I'm fine, thank you. Sit down, please. I'd like to speak English today too, to improve my speaking skill. Let's get it started. Today, it is September 3rd, 2022. It's sunny outside. It's on Saturday today. Have you checked the press release released from the company? Do you always check the press release? Do you always check press release? Do you always check press release? Do you always check press release? According to the press release, a new console will be released next month. Press release. According to the government press release, the border measures will be alleviated gradually, phasedly. According to the government press release, the border measures will be alleviated, relieved, being lifted gradually. According to the government press release, the state of emergency will be postponed for another 2 weeks. A government press release. A government press release. A government press release. Do you always check a government press release? The press have got the press release from the government. The press have got the press release from the company. A government press release. 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 A company press release. According to the government press release, the state of emergency will not be issued this time. putting things in perspective. As a local spirit, we should avoid taking the route during typhoon. According to the government press release, the state of emergency will not be issued this time. According to the government press release, the state of emergency will not be issued this time. Shaking my head indicates no. Many gestures indicate meaning. Some gestures mean different things. Gestures have meanings. Gestures indicate meanings. Gestures indicate meanings. Shaking one's head indicates no or rejection, opposition. Shaking one's head indicates no, rejection, opposition. My boss indicated his rejection by shaking his head. My boss indicated rejection to my proposal by shaking his head. The rash on my skin is the indication of my allergy. The rash on my skin is the indication of my allergy. You can see the indication of his anger by looking at his behavior. For example, one factor or one indication of his anger is to hit the desk or frowning. One of the indications of my anger is to frown or scratching my head, to scratch my head. And one of the indications of my anger or confusion is to scratch my head. One of the indications of my anger is to scratch my head. One of the indications of my confusion is to scratch my head. One of the indications of my confusion is to scratch my head. The circle in the picture might be the indication, harbinger, omen of the typhoon. I hope typhoon won't be created. indication, indication, indication. The stamp on the paper indicates that you have purchased it from the shop officially, formally. The stamp on the product is the indication that you have officially purchased from the store. The stamp on the product is the indication that you have bought the product from the shop officially. The stamp on the paper is the indication that you have officially admitted to the grade. The stamp on the paper is the indication that you have successfully passed the examination. Bowing is the indication to show respect to each other. Bowing is the indication to show respect to each other. Bowing is the indication to show respect to each other. Bowing is the indication to show respect to each other. Bowing is the indication to show respect to each other. Bowing is the indication to show respect to each other. Feeling itchiness is the indication of my allergy. Feeling itchiness after sweating is the indication of my allergy. There are many indications of gestures. There are many indications of things. Scratching my head is the indication of my confusion. Scratching my head is the indication of my anxiety. Scratching my head is one of the indications of my anxieties. The newly discovered dinosaurs fossils might be the clue to finding out the civilization in the town. The newly discovered porcelain and pottery under the ground will be the clue to knowing more about the civilization in the village in ancient times. Could you give me the clue to solving the problem, because I have no idea. Could you give me a clue to solving the problem? The fingerprints left on the table became the clue to finding out the criminal and the crime. The fingerprints left on the table became the clue to solving the crime. The fingerprints left on the table became the clue to solving the problem. Could you clue me to solve the problem, to solve the math question? Could you clue me to find out the answer of the quiz. Could you clue me to the quiz? Could you clue me? Could you clue me to solving the quiz? There is no clue to the crime yet. There was no clue to the picture of the black hole. There was no clue to where I dropped my jewelry. There was no clue to where I dropped the jewelry, but miraculously I found it in the rice field. He is the only person who has the clue to the secret event. I don't have any clues to solve the math questions. There was no clue to which direction I should walk. The newly found pottery will be the clue to finding out civilization in the region. The particles got from the asteroid, minor planet, will be the clue to finding out more about the universe. The particles got from the asteroid will be the clue to finding out more about the universe, this huge universe. Could you clue me to solving the math problems, math questions? Could you clue me to solving the math questions? Without a clue, I cannot solve the math question because I have no idea about mathematics at all. So could you give me a clue? Could you clue me? 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 The newly discovered dinosaur fossils clued the researchers to finding out more about dinosaurs. The newly released picture of the black hole will clue the researchers to finding out more about the universe. The newly released picture of the black hole will clue the researchers to finding out more about the universe. The newly launched telescope into the universe might clue us more to finding out more about the universe. The newly launched telescope into the space might clue us to finding out more about the universe. The newly launched telescope into the space might clue us to finding out more about the universe. The recently launched telescope into the space might clue us to finding out more about the universe, because the telescope can take the finer pictures of the universe, and especially the planets. So recently released pictures of the Jupiter was totally different from that taken by Hubble telescope. So I'm looking forward to more finest high resolution picture of the planets taken by the telescope. Could you clue me a little bit more to solve the math questions? Could you clue me to solve the problems? The fingerprints left on the table clued the detectives. The fingerprints left on the table clued the detectives. Clued the detectives. The fingerprints left on the table clued the detectives to solving the problems, to the crime. The fingerprints left on the table clued the detectives to the crime. The fingerprints left on the table clued the detectives to the crime. The fingerprints left on the table clued the detectives to the crime. The trace left by the tires of the car clued the detectives to how the car accident happened. The trace left by the car tires clued the detectives to how the car accident happened. How the car accident happened. Could you clue me to solving the problem a little bit more? The newly launched telescope into the space might clue the researchers to finding out more about the universe. The newly launched telescope might clue the researchers to finding out more about the universe. The teacher clued me to solve the math questions. The teacher didn't clue us at all to solving the math questions. My friends didn't clue me to solve the quiz. If you cannot answer at all, I can clue you to solve the quiz. The new advanced technologies might clue the researchers to finding out more about the universe. The future advanced technologies, especially medical technologies, might clue the doctors and researchers to eradicating the disease. The new technologies, especially the new medical technologies, might clue the doctors and researchers to eradicating the disease. The fingerprints left on the table clued the detectives to the crime. The fingerprints left on the table clued the detectives to the crime. The fingerprints left on the table clued the detectives to the crime. It doesn't mean I disapprove of the idea. It doesn't mean I disapprove of the idea. I'm of two minds whether I disapprove of the plan. I'm in two minds about whether to disapprove of the idea, plan, proposal. I think 90% of the members in the meeting will disapprove my ideas. Disapprove of my ideas. Disapprove of my ideas. My crazy ideas are often disapproved. 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 Disapprove. Many people will disapprove crazy ideas. Many people will disapprove crazy ideas, plans, bills, and so on. Many people will disapprove my ideas, proposals. Have you already put forward your proposals, reports, documents? I will disapprove. It doesn't mean I will disapprove. It doesn't mean I will disapprove. It doesn't mean I disapprove. 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 I will disapprove of the plan. It doesn't mean I will disapprove of your idea. It doesn't mean I will disapprove of your crazy idea. Disapprove. Many people will disapprove of my ideas. According to the poll, about 50% of the respondents will disapprove of the bill. According to the poll, about half of the respondents disapproved. It doesn't mean I disapprove. It necessarily doesn't mean I disapprove. It necessarily doesn't mean I disapprove. It doesn't mean I disapprove. It doesn't mean I disapprove. It doesn't mean I disapprove. Disapprove. Many people will disapprove my ideas, plans, way of thinking. Many people will disapprove minority ideas because many people follow the majority. Because many people follow the majority. Many people will disapprove minority opinions because most of them follow the majority. I'm sorry, but I cannot approve your ideas. I will disapprove the itinerary in which we have to sleep in the dormitory room because I cannot sleep with snoring sound next to me in the same room, which stresses me a lot, which irritates me a lot. I will disapprove the itinerary in which we have to stay in a dormitory room. Sleeping with the snoring sound is the worst thing for me. So unless the itinerary is changed, I cannot go to the trip. I will disapprove I will disapprove the itinerary in which we have to stay in the dormitory room. I cannot sleep with the snoring sound in the same room, which irritates me the worst. My passport has been successfully admitted, accepted, approved. My application form was successfully approved at the ministry. My application for the examination. My application for the examination has been approved at the ministry. The application for the examination has been approved. I've got the email from the ministry. The application form has been approved. Successfully, officially, formally. Not many people will approve of my crazy ideas. Not many people will approve of my risky challenges. Risky challenges. Run a risk, have a risk. Run a risk, have a risk. Can you run a risk? Can you have a risk? Only those people who can have a risk, run a risk, will make good hugely. Can you take a risk? Can you have a risk? Can you run a risk? Can you take a risk? Can you take a risk? Can you run a risk? Can you take a risk? Can you run a risk? The application for the examination has been approved at the organization. Our parents will not approve of our crazy big dreams. They want us to look at the reality. I think most of our parents will not approve of our crazy, huge big dreams because they want us to look at the reality. Disapproval, 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 disapproval. His face on his expression on his face definitely shows his disapproval. Shaking his head definitely shows his disapproval, 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 disapproval. He's shaking his head definitely indicates his disapproval, disapproval. Disapproval, 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 disapproval. His expression on his face definitely definitely indicates his disapproval. Disapproval to the proposal. Disapproval of my proposal. His strict expression on his face indicates his disapproval of participating in the party. His strict expression on his face indicates his disapproval of participating in the party, taking part in the party, joining the party. Disapproval. His strict expression on his face definitely indicates, ultimately, obviously, disapproval. 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 His expression on his face indicates his disapproval. His shaking his head indicates his disapproval. 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 His strict expression on his face indicates disapproval. Disapproval. My boss rejected my proposal in a disapproving tone. In a disapproving tone. In a disapproving tone. In a disapproving tone. Disapproving. 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 Did you vote disapproving? Vote. Did you put disapproving vote into the box? Did you throw a disapproving vote into the box? Are you disapproving? Are you disapproving of the plan? Many people are disapproving of my plan. Disapproving. 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 disapproving, 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 in a disapproving tone. My boss rejected my proposal in a disapproving tone, in a disapproving tone. Disapproving, 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 disapproving. Disapproving, 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 disapproving. Many people are disapproving of my plan, my ideas. Many people are usually disapproving of my plan. Disapproving. According to the poll, about 50% of the respondents were disapproving of the bill. Disapproving of the bill. Disapproving, 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 disapproving. According to the poll conducted for 3 days from Friday to Sunday, about 50% of the respondents were disapproving of the bill. Disapproving, disapproving. My boss rejected my proposal in a disapproving tone, 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 in a disapproving tone. Disapproving, 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 disapproval, 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 disapproving, disapproving, in a disapproving tone, in a disapproving tone, in a disapproving tone, disapproving. I'm not disapproving. of your plan. I'm not disapproving of your plan, but there are some factors encouraging me from agreeing with your plan, agreeing to your plan, approving of your plan. I'm not disapproving of your plan, but there are some factors discouraging me from approving of your plan. I'm not disapproving of your plan, but there are some factors discouraging me from being your side with you. Disapproving, 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 in a disapproving tone, disapproving, in a disapproving tone. Your silence will be regarded as the approval of the decision, okay? Your silence will be regarded with viewed, seen as the approval of the decision, okay? So if you have a question, please tell your opinions. I've got the approval to study abroad from my parents. I finally got the approval from my parents to study abroad. I'm so happy. The researcher got the permission, the approval to research the incredible thing from the CEO, Director General. Approval. The approval of the challenging, the crazy idea surprised many people. Took everyone surprised. The approval from my boss, the approval of researching the incredible things by my boss took all of the employees by surprise. Surprised all of the employees. Approval. Approval. Disapproval. 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 Approval. Disapproval. Disapproval. Approval. Your silence will be seen, viewed, regarded as the approval of the decision. So if you have a question, please tell us. Approval. 50% of the respondents showed their approval of the plan, of the policy, of the bill, of the decisions by the government. About 50% of the respondents showed their approval of the decisions made by the government. About 50% of the respondents showed their approval of the decisions made by the governor. Have you really got the permission, approval from your boss? I've got the approval to have the paid leave tomorrow. I've got the approval to have a paid leave tomorrow. It is very difficult to get the approval from the company. It is very difficult to get the approval from the company. Do you oppose everything? Do you oppose anything? Are you opposed to the policy? Are you opposed to the policy? No, I don't oppose the policy. I approve of the policy. I approve of the policy. I approve the policy. Oppose. 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 Most of the members in the division will oppose my crazy ideas. Most of the employees in my department will oppose my crazy ideas. Oppose. 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 I cannot understand why so many people are opposed to the policy. I cannot understand why so many people are opposed to the policy. As opposed to my relative, my father doesn't care about his fashion at all. As opposed to the cars produced in Japan. As opposed to the right handle of the cars in Japan, the driving seats are usually set on the left in the United States. As opposed to the left driving seat in the cars in the United States of America, the driving seats are usually set on the right side of the cars in Japan. As opposed to the lifestyle stepping into the house with their shoes on in United States of America, in Japan, we take off our shoes at the entrance before stepping into the house. As opposed to the lifestyle in the house, such as stepping into the house with their shoes on. In Japan, we take off our shoes at the entrance before stepping into inside. As opposed to, as opposed to, as opposed to. As opposed to, 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 as opposed to. As opposed to. As opposed to, as opposed to. As opposed to, as opposed to, as opposed to. As opposed to everyone else, I didn't have much job hunting experience. I didn't try to do job hunt enough. As opposed to most of the people, my way of thinking is very unique. As opposed to everyone else, my way of thinking or ideas are totally different from others. As opposed to everyone else, my way of thinking, ideas, and many things are totally different from others. As opposed to. As opposed to many people, my tastes are usually different from others. As opposed to. 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 As opposed to the temperature in Okinawa, that in Hokkaido is much cooler or colder. As opposed to the wild warm temperature in Okinawa, that in Hokkaido is cooler, colder. As opposed to the very cold weather in winter in Hokkaido, that in Okinawa is milder, warmer, much warmer. As opposed to the cold temperature in winter in Hokkaido, that in Okinawa is much warmer. In contrast to the lifestyle in the house in the United States, Japanese people take off their shoes at the entrance before stepping into the house. In contrast to the left side, the driving seat on the left side in the United States or other countries, the cars in Japan, the driving seat is usually set on the right of the cars in Japan. In contrast to the left driving seat of the cars in the United States, the driving seats are set on the right in Japan. In contrast to people standing on left side of the escalator in especially northern part of Japan or middle north. People in Kansai or west area stand on the right side of the escalator. In contrast to people standing on the left side of the escalator in Tokyo, people in Osaka stand on the right side of the escalator. There are both ruling and opposition party. If the party earns more than half of the Diet members, they can be ruling party, and the others and the rest will criticize the ruling party as the opposition party. There are ruling and opposition party. There are the House of Representatives and the House of Councillors, upper and lower houses. In Japan, there are both lower and upper houses. Lower house and upper house. Lower house and upper house. His strict expression on his face indicates opposition to the policy. His shaking head indicates his opposition to taking part in the party. His shaking head His shaking head indicates his opposition to taking part in the party. His opposition to participating in the party was obvious. Magnificent. Distinct. Obvious. Clear. I was at the opposite side of the train station. That's why I couldn't meet my friend. My friend was waiting for me at the opposite side of the train station. That's why I had been kept waiting for another 15 minutes after his arrival. The bakery shop is located on the opposite side of the walkway. The bakery shop is located on the opposite side of the walkway. My ideas are usually opposite to others. My ideas are usually opposite to others. Opposite. Opposite. My ideas are usually opposite to others. My friend was waiting for me at the opposite side of the train station. The start button is opposite side of you are touching now. The start button is the opposite of what you are touching now. The start button is the opposite side of what you are touching at. The number of interracial marriages has been increasing. One factor contributing to the increase is, I guess, it's the spread of the internet. Now we can meet people in the world very easily through the internet. Interracial. Diversity is very important to create interesting things. Many ideas will come together and which will create more wonderful things, such as wonderful arts, especially wonderful art. Interracial. Interracial marriages are not normal. The number of interracial marriages has been increasing. I see more and more interracial couples out there recently. I see more interracial couples out there. I see more interracial couples out there recently. Interracial. Gradual steps are very important, not doing a lot at once. Gradual steps is very important. Gradual step is very important to achieve something goal, because doing a lot at once will give us the burdens which end up having troubles maybe. Alleviating the border measures will be one of the gradual steps to lift the restrictions at all. Alleviating the border measures will be one of the gradual steps until lifting those at all. I usually take a gradual steps to achieve my goals, because setting very big goal at once will make us lose the motivation. So first we should set a small goal, and after achieving it we can set another bigger goal. And in the course of the challenges we will achieve something big in the end. Setting up something big goal will make us lose our motivation, which is worse, which is not good. I usually set gradual steps until I achieve my goals. I usually set gradual steps until I achieve something big. The tiger made the gradual steps to the animal so that he wouldn't be noticed by the animal. The tiger made a gradual step. The tiger made a gradual step behind the animal so that he wouldn't be noticed. I specifically like salmon in sushi. And there are some methods to release my stresses. Specifically, I tend to walk and squat during memorizing English words or taking a shower after studying. I specifically like exercising during the study and take shower. Specifically. I specifically have the experience of teaching. We can be prepared for the typhoon, specifically taking in the object outside, object put outside, or buying a flashlight in case of emergency. We can prepare for emergency beforehand. For example, we can buy the flashlight when in preparation for the blackout, power outage. I don't like crowded places, specifically around Yamanote Station, Yamanote Line, the trains in Yamanote Line. I don't like crowded places, crowded trains, specifically the trains of Yamanote Line, specifically. I specifically don't like crowded places. Specifically. I have some experiences of the tourism industry. Specifically, I have guided my foreign guests around Kansai area. I have some experience in the tourism industry. Specifically, I have guided some foreign guests around Kansai area. The company A takes up about 40% of the market share, and it's still dreaming of enlarging the market share, expanding this market share. Male students take up about 70% of the university. Male students take up about 60% of the university. Female students take up about 40% of the university. Studying takes up most of the day for students. Studying takes up most of the day in a day, most of the day for students. Studying, my day is usually taken up by studying most of the day. My whole day is mostly taken up by studying. My whole day is mostly taken up by studying. My whole day is mostly taken up by studying. My whole day is mostly taken up by studying. The professor took up a cell phone from the student during the class. Don't take up dreams from the children. Some parents deprive their children of their dreams. Some parents take up children's dreams. The company A takes up about 30% of the market share and still dreaming of enlarging, expanding the market share. Studying takes up most of the day for students. Studying takes up most of the day for students. Studying takes up most of the day for students. Studying takes up most of the day for students. Studying takes up most of the day for students. My whole day is mostly taken up by studying. My whole day is usually mostly taken up by studying. Male students take up about 50% of the university. Female students take up about 50% of the university. The company is taken up 60% of the company is taken up by foreigners. 60% of the company is taken up by foreigners. 70% of the company is taken up by the locals. Studying takes up most of the day for students. Studying takes up most of the day for students. Studying takes up most of the day for students. Studying takes up most of the day for students. Studying takes up most of the day for students. Studying takes up most of the day for the students. Soon after the sale, the condominium was taken up. Soon after the sale, the condominium was taken up. Soon after the sale, the condominium was taken up. Currently, the condominium has been taken up. Currently, the condominium is taken up, occupied. %70 of the company, 70% of the employees of the company takes up taken up by from other prefectures. 40% of the inbound income taken up by the country A. About half of my day is taken up by studying. About half of my day is taken up by the studying. Studying takes up about 50% of my day. Studying takes up most of the day for students. Studying takes up most of the day for students. I'd like to talk it over. I'd like to talk over the issue with you privately. I'd like to have a word with you privately. I'd like to have a word with you privately. I want to have a word privately. Please do me a favor. Could you do me a favor? Can I ask a favor of you? Can I ask you a favor? I'd like to talk over the traveling with you. I'd like to talk the traveling over. I'd like to talk traveling over with you. I'd like to talk over the opening the bank in foreign countries. I'd like to talk over opening a bank account in foreign country with you. Let me think of it. Let me think it over. Let me think it over. How much can I have the time to think it over? Because I do not have much time to think it over, so I made the decision quickly. I was obliged to make the decision quickly. I was forced to make the decision quickly because I do not have much time. I do not have much time, so I do not have much time to think it over. So I was obliged to make the decision, make the quick decision. Let me think it over. I will think my decision over. I will think over my resignation. I will think over my resignation. I will think over my resignation. I will think my resignation over. Did you even think over the decision? Some people try without thinking it over. Some people try soon without thinking it over. Some people try without thinking it over. Some people try soon without thinking it over. Can I try it on? Can I try on the clothes? Sure. Where is the fitting room? There, over there. There are 2 fitting rooms. Both of them are available now. Please enter either of them. Thank you. Can I try it on? Can I try on the clothes? Can I try the clothes on? Excuse me, can I try this t-shirt on? Sure. You can try it on in the fitting room. Thank you. Could you turn down the volume of the radio? Could you turn down the volume of the TV? Could you turn down the temperature of the air conditioner? Because it is a little bit too cold, okay? I do not know I was bothering you. Excuse me, could you turn down the volume of the TV? I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was bothering you. I'm sorry, I hadn't realized that I was bothering you. I had been bothering. I didn't realize that I had been bothering you. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that I had been bothering you. My crazy ideas are often turned down. My crazy ideas are often turned down. My crazy ideas are often turned down. The fire is turning down. Please add more branches inside to make the fire stronger. The fire is turning down. As the battery goes down, as the battery becomes weaker, the The brightness of the light is turning down. The brightness of the light is turning down. As the battery goes down, as the batteries go down, as the batteries go down, the brightness of the light is turning down. As the batteries go down, the brightness of the light goes down, turns down. As the batteries go down, the brightness of the light turns down. My power soon turns down. Could you turn down the volume of the TV? Could you turn down the volume of the TV? Could you turn down the volume of the TV? Could you turn the volume of the TV down? Could you turn down the volume of the TV? My crazy ideas often turn down. My boss turned down my proposal. My boss turned down my proposal. Have you already turned it in? Yes, I've already turned my report in. Until when I have to turn? By when do I have to turn my report in? By when do I have to turn in my report? You have to hand in your report by Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Otherwise, you will lose the credit. Which means you have to have the same year again in the same grade. Have you already turned in your report to the professor? Yes, I've already turned my report in to my professor. So I'm relaxed now. I'm relieved. I'm alleviated. All I have to do is to watch TV tonight. Very relaxing. Very relaxed. Sounds good. I haven't written my report yet. I have to finish it by the deadline. Maybe I will turn in my report to my professor at the last minute. On the last day, maybe. On the last day of the deadline. We all have to turn in the assignment to the teacher tomorrow. We all have to turn in the assignment to the teacher tomorrow. Please make sure you turn off all of the switches when you leave the office last. Please make sure you turn off all of the switches when you leave the office last. Please make sure you turn off all of the switches when you leave the office last. When you leave the office last. The water was kept running. The water was kept running. Someone must have forgot to turn off the faucet. When I arrived at home, the water was running. The water was kept running. Someone must have forgot to turn off the faucet. Please be sure to turn off the air conditioner before you fall asleep. Sometimes I fall asleep with the air conditioner on, with the air conditioner running, without turning off the air conditioner. I think many people will fall asleep without turning off the air conditioner. I think many people will fall asleep without turning off the air conditioner, but we have the timer we can set, so we don't have to turn off all the way. It will be turned off automatically by setting the time. Very convenient, isn't it? Yeah, sure. The light is turned off at 9 o'clock p.m. in the hospital. The light is always turned off at 9 o'clock p.m. in the hospital. Could you turn on the TV? When I arrived at the home, the heater was turned on. which means I forgot to turn it off when I left my house. Who turned on the TV without permission? Who turned on the machine without permission? Turning on the machine without permission is subject to be fired, okay? Do you know how to turn on the machine? Turn on the light. I'd like to turn on the light, but I don't know the press of the button. I'd like to turn the light on. I'd like to turn the light on, but I don't know where the button is. I'd like to turn the light on. I'd like to turn the light on, but I don't know where the button is. I'd like to turn on the light. I'd like to turn on the light, but I don't know where the button is. I'd like to turn on the light, but I don't know where the light is, where the button is. Do you know how to turn on the machine? Do you know how to operate the machine? Do you know how to turn the machine on? Do you know how to turn the machine on? Do you know how to turn the machine on? Do you know how to turn on the machine? On arriving at home, I turned on the air conditioner. On arriving at home, I turned on the air conditioner. On arriving at home, I turned on the light of the room. The sensor light turns on automatically when it detects the movement. The sensor light turns on and bright automatically when it detects the movement. The sensor light turns on itself when it detects the movement. The car slipped and turned over on its side, turned on its side. The car slipped and turned over and stopped on its side. My parents are going to turn over the assets to me. Do you like to turn okonomiyaki over on the iron plate? Yes, I like to turn over okonomiyaki on the iron plate, which is one of the attractions I'd like to enjoy in Japan. I enjoy cooking okonomiyaki, Japanese style pancake. Can you turn over okonomiyaki well? Can you turn over okonomiyaki well? Can you turn okonomiyaki over well? Can you turn over okonomiyaki well? Can you turn okonomiyaki over well? The car turned over and stopped on its side. Can you turn over in the air? The athlete showed us turning over in the air. The athlete showed off turning over in the air. The athlete showed us turning over in the air. The athlete showed us turning over in the air. The athlete showed us turning over in the air. The athlete showed us turning over in the air. The athlete kept turning over in the air on the trampoline. The car slipped and turned over on its side. Turned over on its side. The car slipped and turned over and stopped on its side. I'm going to turn over my used guitar to my friend. I'm going to pass down my old guitar to my friend. I'm going to turn over my old guitar to my friend. I turned over my old guitar to my student. I turned over my old guitar to my student. Could you turn up the volume of the TV? My grandmother often turns up the volume of the TV because She is difficult to listen to. You should turn up the fire a little bit more because otherwise it will take forever. You should turn up the fire a little bit more, otherwise the cooking will take like forever, much longer. My grandmother often turns up the volume of TV. My grandmother often turns up the volume of TV. So after she used the TV, I was surprised. After she uses the TV, I always surprised at the big volume of the TV when I turn it on. My grandmother often turns up the volume of the TV. So after she used the TV, I'm always surprised at the big volume when I turn it on. My grandmother often turns up the volume of the TV. So after she used the TV, after she finished watching the TV, I always get surprised at the big volume of the TV when I turn it on. Could you turn up the light a little bit more because it's too dark? Could you turn up the light? Could you turn up the fire? Could you turn up the fire a little bit more to finish cooking faster? Okay? Faster. Some people turns up the air conditioner so high. Some people turns up the temperature of the air conditioner so high. Some people turns up the temperature of the air conditioner so high. Some people turns up the temperature of the air conditioner so high. Some people turns up the temperature of the air conditioner so high. Some people turns up the temperature of the air conditioner so high. Some people turns up the temperature of the air conditioner so high. My friend finally turned up 30 minutes after my arrival. Some people turn up the volume of stereo to enjoy the music more. When we are in high tension, we tend to turn up the volume of the stereo or the music. When we are in high tension, on good spirits, on higher spirits, in a better mood, we tend to turn up the volume of the music. When we are excited, we are inclined to turn up the volume of the music. When we are on good spirits, on higher spirits, on excited spirits, when we are on excited spirits, in an excited mood, in an excited mood, when we are in an excited mood, we are prone to turn up the volume of the music. I try not to use app money. Some people use app monthly pay every month. Some salaried workers use app monthly pay every month. Some salaried workers use app monthly pay monthly. I try not to use up my savings every month. I used app all of the time except for the preparation, and I went to the stage. I used app all of the time set for the preparation. I try to use up all paid leaves in a year. I I used up all of the paid leaves in a year. I used up all of the paid leaves in a year. I usually wear out things before I buy new ones. I usually wear out a thing before I buy a new one. I usually wear out a thing before I buy a new one. My shoes are worn out. This t-shirt is worn out at the shoulder. There are tears on the sleeves. But if you buy it as it is, we can give you 30% off the price. Let me think. There is a tear on the sleeve. But if you buy it as it is, we can give you 30% off, 30% discount. There is a tear on the sleeve, but if you buy it as it is, we can give you 20% off. The daily routine always wears me out. The daily routine wears me out. The long hour commute wears me out too. The daily long time commute, going to and going back, to and from wears me out. The long hours of commute wears me out. The long commute every day from to my house wears me out. Daily work will wear us out, but we can recharge. We can be recharged on weekends by doing what we love or by relaxing. Daily workload will wear us out, but we can be recharged on weekends by doing what we love and by relaxing and having enough rest. I usually wear things out before I buy new ones. I usually wear things out before I buy new ones. I usually wear out things before I buy new ones. I usually wear out a thing before I buy a new one. My shoes are wearing out. My shoes are wearing out. I will have to buy a pair of shoes. My shoes are wearing out. My shoes are wearing out. I will have to buy a new pair of shoes. I will have to buy a new pair of shoes. I usually wear a thing out before I buy a new one. The shoes are totally worn out. I will have to buy a new pair of shoes. The things I have are usually worn out because I use them until they are worn out. The things I have are usually worn out because I use them until they are worn out before I buy new ones. Were you this kind of person who wrote down everything explained by the professor? Were you this kind of person who wrote down everything explained by the professor or teacher or associate professor? What are you writing down? I'm writing down the information, bus schedule. I'm writing down the password for the account so that for fear that I forget it. For fear that I should forget it. In case I should forget it. Lest I should forget it. I'm writing down the password for the account. In case I should forget it, lest I should forget it, lest that I should forget it, for fear that I should forget it, in case that I should forget it. Okay, I will finish speaking here. Thank you for watching. See you next time. See you.